I want to have uncomfortable conversations. I want the room to be divided. I want people to be screaming and mad at each other. Then I want them to understand each other. I want to see things from a different point of view. This is Unpopular Opinion.
Upstanding citizens, as you can see today, my hair is out. I got my beads out. You must understand. I'm here representing my Africanist side. Our guest today, you guys won't believe this, but you know how we roll here on Unpopular Opinion. We've got Mr. Andile Mngxitama. Thank you so much for your contribution to the African child. I think we have to say this because you get so much negative media coverage that the African child could be confused. And we're like, no, this is actually one of our heroes, and we know and we thank you.
But I'm inspired by your attitude towards all the negativity and how you've overcome that. And today we're here having this conversation. I'm at home, thanks.
Thank you so much. So then let's unpack who Andile is, because I need to be only get what the media is telling us. So we need to get the human story behind you. Where did you grow up? What made you who you are today?
Thanks for the question. I am a son of a farm worker and a kitchen girl, so to speak. I was born and raised on farms, white-owned farms. And a white farm is a total institution of oppression. Black people on farms have no rights whatsoever. You know, you can't bury your own family members without the permission of the white man. In fact, half the time they'll say no. Then you'll have to find an alternative space.
The white man who came with land.
Exactly.
On the farm.
And unfortunately, they still run the farms. Almost 30 years after democracy, we have not changed that situation. So I was born on a farm. I went my primary schooling on two white farms. The first where I started, that man, John Forey, in Potchefstroom area, in Northwest. He was a crazy white man. He would come in winter time, all the time, stop in front of the school, take rocks, and shutter all the windows. In winter, kids are inside.
Because it's a black school.
He owns it. Oh, see, on farms, the schools are owned by the white man. So the children of farm workers go to the schools, which are owned by the white man. And of course, the government then provided the teachers. But
what?
Exactly. So he'll come and he'll do that, terrify everyone. And of course, I did not like school, something that I'll tell you.
Yes.
Because I thought school was a place of slow, demented people.
Okay.
More so when we did that, our Father who art in heaven. I mean, I just mimed, man. I could not take that whole thing because I thought it was
So you were born on the farm?
I was born on the farm, raised on the farm. Different farms around Potchefstroom, where my parents kept on moving.
Yes.
But that was literally the first one where this crazy white man. And then I went to my higher primary school to Terapicana, which was on the other side called Boskop. Again, the white man, Jan Serfontein, who owns that school. He's my first politicizing agent. Because, you know, when you're on farm, when the white man comes, you must open the gate. And I did that. After opening the gate, the white man said, "Donkey." And I said, "Donkey." Then he says, "Donkey V," because I should have said donkey bus. I think I'm 12, 13 at the time. I refused. And he jumped out of the buggy with a knopkiri, gave chase. I ran into the fields. But that was my first confrontation and refusal.
What year is this?
This is in the 80s.
Late 80s?
Yeah. So I ran into the field and he's giving chase with this knopkiri. The shocking thing is that same white man, and he killed a lot of black people. He had a poultry farm. I
When
know.
you say he killed a lot of people, that's such a random thing to say, and just to put it like that as if it's a
I mean,
normal thing. What
This
do you
is the
mean?
thing. I mean, I know for a fact that at least 5 black people were killed by Jan Serfontein. He's still alive. And he was the chairperson of the AWB. Remember, Potch is not far from Vennesdorp,
Yes,
where there is Eugene
yes,
Tereblanche.
yes.
So he was the chairman of the AWB in Potchefstroom. And he had this poultry farm. So some black people went to liberate some chickens. And then he followed them, shot and killed them. And nothing happened to him. And he shot a few more people. He ran people over with his car. And an interesting thing is Jan Serfontein speaks perfect Setswana. And that's another thing that black people don't understand. When they see white people speaking our languages, we get, they are still racist. They still occupy the same position. The most
He
extreme.
learned Tswana so that he can be racist properly.
Exactly.
Umuzwe.
Yeah, exactly.
Utlwe.
So Jan Serfontein, of course, then here's the thing. Later he became a member of parliament under Mandela. Mandela took an AWB member, made him member of parliament. He, now an ANC member, removed all black people, helping all those white farmers remove black people into the township squatter camps. The people that I grew up with, those families are in a squatter camp in Potchefstroom as we speak. Through this Jan Serfontein, assisted by the ANC government, as an ANC member, an ANC leader. After Mandela's time, he did first term in parliament, then he went back to Northwest. They made him an MEC for agriculture. This white man.
This racist man.
This racist Jan Serfontein. The first man who politicized me in that sense that I took a very clear position and that my role was to fight the system. So I believe that people are born with some kind of rebel, sentiment. Because I was rebellious all
How
the
did
time.
your parents feel about your character and your...
I had a lot of fight with my father. Again, the
Because
white...
he's trying to protect his food, right?
Yes, yes. And
it's understandable
yes.
at the same time, but still so messed up.
Yeah, I mean, my first fight with my father was when he tried to impose the fact that we must go work on the fields of the white man, and I refused. But I mean, I put him in a very bad position because every other family sent the children to go work in the fields, and I refused. And so there was my first confrontation against. So patriarchal power on farms operates as a disciplining mechanism to make sure that we serve the white system. That's how it is. The white man is God, then your father is the servant of God, who must make sure that the interests of God are taken care of. Everyone must obey this God. And of course, if your father does not obey that God, they will be kicked out of the farm. They can even be killed. As I say, white people killing black people when I grew up was a known thing. There was a white man who was target shooting with black people, and he shot somebody we know. They say he was target shooting on the other farm. And even that white man joined the ANC. In Potchefstroom, in fact, all the white racist farmers are with the ANC. But I grew up under those conditions. And so I went to Tlokwe High School, which is in the township now. That is where I formally got inducted into black consciousness.
Okay, how did that happen? What happened?
Again, firstly, there was a struggle. You hear struggle stories, you're on farm. I was just wanting to get into the township where things are happening.
Yes.
And so when I arrived in my school, this high school, one white man, they called one of the learners a Bobeyan. She's basically a baboon.
Yes.
And I wanted some action around this. Nothing was happening. And I went into the township. Somebody took me to a meeting where I met Basi Gukushe, who was just returned from Robben Island. And he came back. He went in as an ANC guy. He came back as a black consciousness adherent. And in that meeting, that's when I joined the Black Consciousness student movement. And I must thank Basi for grilling me, educating me on Black consciousness. Every week he'll give me readings, and on a Sunday we'll discuss that reading. So the definition
Like
of Black,
what were you reading?
the definition of Black consciousness, non-racialism versus anti-racism, the history of our struggle, the different movements, since Bambata coming up to the 40s, the fights inside the ANC, the breakaway, forming the PAC, all that history. He let me read and questioned me about it. And then coming to Black consciousness, what this mean? What does it mean? What is the differences between these movements? So I was a high school kid, but I had deep sense of our history, the development of the radical consciousness, and the place, of course, of Black consciousness, because we believe that Black consciousness was the highly distilled expression of Black resistance, having learned from the 100 years of resistance. But the idea of Black consciousness finally was answered all our questions in the battle against white power.
I find that a lot of youth now don't understand what Black consciousness is.
It's a fad, it's a
Right?
fashion.
So please unpack it for us. Because even when they're like, you're 80! What? How can you be? And you're just like, wow, guys.
Yeah, this is the problem of today, that there's no substance.
Yes.
It is more performance.
Yes.
Performance, the spectre,
Yes.
spectacle, even in our politics, like you can see in parliament, the one party stands, pretends to be fighting the other, but they all serve the same white gods, So Black consciousness basically was concretized in the Azanian situation in South Africa by Steve Biko. And we forget that Steve Biko was a young guy. I mean, at that time he was 21, 22 really, Yeah, I mean, he writes his best stuff at 24. And then thereafter he didn't have enough time to write, he was more organizing. I mean, and we know that he was assassinated at 30. So, Biko learns from our history, and I published a book, a collection of essays, Biko Lives.
Yes.
And we also published a 1972 interview with Steve Biko, where he basically gave us a sense where his own thinking emanates from. And you can see it comes from the long history of Black resistance, the Black Power movement, Stokelka Michael.
Yes.
He's the one who formed the notion of Black consciousness. And Steve Biko took it here to say, look, in South Africa, what is the problem? It's white power, white racism. What is the answer? What is the force that must go against it? It's Black solidarity. And basically this confrontation between Black solidarity against white power, white racism, is what defines the Black Consciousness Project.
So when we speak of consciousness, what are we speaking of?
So Biko says you cannot be conscious of yourself and not fight for your liberation. Consciousness here is the totality of the person. I mean, Biko speak about the spiritual, the cultural, then the socio-economic. Biko spends a lot of time with the mind, coming to consciousness, coming to your self. Awareness. But it is a very particular awareness. It's an awareness rooted in blackness.
What must we be aware of?
I mean, basically of a sense of oppression, aware of where we are in the hierarchy of the human, and how our humanity has been usurped and we've been reduced to subhumanness. That is why they put us in townships, in squatter camps, where we murder each other every weekend. This is part of the white system that is controlling blackness. Self-hate is generated out of this lack of consciousness of the self. And white people created this self-hate out of our oppression. And an oppressed figure is a figure of derision.
Yeah.
And so I am oppressed, and I look at you as a reflection of me. And that's why it's so easy to hate other black people. This is why Ntlantla Lak says, "Makwerekwere," we go for them. That is why in the township, when we drink in that weekend, a friend stabs another brother.
It's easy.
It is easy. And this is created out of a long history of our exclusion, our oppression, and finally our minds are on autopilot, reproducing the system of oppression. If we look at how our government runs things, it reproduces the same system of whiteness.
Yes, the system wasn't dismantled.
Exactly. So the black consciousness, if it was a black consciousness government, none of these things would be happening. Black people will break down the apartheid spatial design where blacks are in the townships, white are in the suburbs. We'll have to break that and create a new reality where black people are not the cheap producers of labor, where we are every morning trapped in those trains, going to the white spaces to again deliver our labor, just like it was designed. Nothing has changed. We are laborers, we are landless, we are the oppressed, we're poor, we're hungry in our own land. So
Nothing has changed.
nothing has changed. So black consciousness would have necessarily have changed things around. And Steve Biko, that's why he was so clear that in South Africa the problem is white racism. And to sort this thing out, we need black solidarity. And Steve Biko was very big with black unity, including by the way, people don't know this. Steve Biko was captured, assassinated, on his way to unite the PAC, the ANC, and the Black Consciousness Movement. He had started negotiations with O.R. Tambo. He went down to Cape Town to talk to another movement called the New Unity Movement, trying to make sure that by the time he speaks to the bigger movements, the South African liberation movements, which were based at home, had united. He took that risk getting out of his restriction area with the possibility of being captured. And so black unity, which is something which is evading all of us, is something that Biko died for.
But what makes us so divided and so competitive?
I think it is the slave mentality. You know, a slave is a very problematic animal. Slave hates itself. Slave is in competition with the other slaves. The thing the slave will never do is to confront the master that creates the conditions, that creates scarcity and want amongst the slave system itself. So we are really slaves, quite frankly. That explains why we are so divided politically. You know, one of the things that I take from white people is that once the National Party took power, it took them less than 40 years to solve the white poverty problem, to empower them economically, their own banks, their own industry. Of course, the land they had, but the apartheid government gave white farmers cheap credit.
And subsidized
everything. Of course, make sure that they thrive. And of course, they excluded us from the political system. They created a false majority, false white majority, so that they can make the laws in parliament for white people. We are a black majority. That parliament right now is 90% black. 90% black, actually.
But the rules are not.
I mean, they're failing even to bring back the land. I mean...
Why are black people so scared of that conversation, especially in politics?
Because our politics are white.
So we're going to offend the bus.
That's it. I mean, most of the parties in parliament, in fact, the top 3 parties in parliament are white parties. The ANC, the EFF, the DA are white parties.
They're all funded by the same whites.
Exactly. And the ideological leadership comes from the DA. The DA determines what's going to happen in this country. That's why in 2024, the DA will basically provide a white man as the president of the nation. I'm telling you now, you heard it from me first. Johan Esteysen, John Vulligate, whatever, Julius Malema, Mashaba
between them
will give John Vulligate the presidency of the country, and this country will be right back into the hands of white people. Right now, it's symbolically black, at least, the ANC, which is running a white system itself. But now it will also be symbolically a white project. They have already, Julius in 2015 went to London. From London, he came back and he gave the DA political power.
He came back a new man.
Exactly. He was attacking Mandela. In fact, he attacked them there in London. He attacked Robert Mugabe there in London, saying he was too old, he must get out of power. And then Robin Renwick. Lord Robin Renwick is one of the biggest source of our problems in Southern Africa. He is the man the Queen sent to Zimbabwe to negotiate that bad Lancaster agreement. He's the same man they sent to Namibia to negotiate the deal, which up to now Namibians don't have land. They don't have land, Namibian people, but they have the so-called democracy. He's the same man who was here. He is proud, by the way, to say he's the one who changed Mandela's idea around nationalization. He spoke to Mandela, and Mandela was convinced nationalization is a bad idea, and he dropped it. Robin Renwick says it. You can check it on YouTube. Robin Renwick, Lord Robin Renwick, is a man that Julius went to see in London under the Chatham House rules, which means that we will never know what they discussed. It's a secret meeting between this representative of the Queen and the big revolutionary of South Africa. What are they talking about? But we can see the result of Robin Renwick's project, where Julius Malema's fight with the ANC is that it's better to give power to white people. I mean, it's like if me and you are fighting. I can't go and say, an outsider, I will basically... Yeah, and then me and the outsider must attack you and finish you off. So our liberation in South Africa is going to be delayed for another 100 years, because the white man is so clear and is so advanced that he has now recruited into his project, in his agenda, radically sounding blacks who speak black but act white to entrench white power. So we are in trouble in this country, quite frankly, if we don't do something. And that something is again political. AZAPO, the PAC, ourselves, any other pro-black movement have to sit in one space, provide a counter to the coming danger. We can no longer philosophize. 2024, a white government will be here. And what they've done, which is a very smart thing, the ANC has failed to deliver. The ANC has basically provided the excuse for white people to be seen as messiahs.
To be like, guys, let's come help. Because that's what they is doing right now.
Exactly. I mean, I'm told the AfriForum has been called to come and help in the ESCOM situation. So the failures of the ANC are providing an alibi for white power to be legitimized, to be seen as better. But it is white power that's basically controlling the ANC. It is white power that has brought the ANC to this situation. Even corruption. People don't realize that black people...
They didn't even know how to be corrupt.
Exactly. But in South Africa, since 1994, to get money, you have to be corrupt. And actually, what does it mean to be corrupt is that white power will determine who amongst us gets the money.
Yes.
And generally, if you think about it, you'll have some kind of connection to political power, run the tender system, but the real big beneficiaries of the tender system is white people. It's white capital. I mean, the billions of the government budget goes to white capital. We are just middlemen.
Wow.
Take SAA. I mean, I think it was like something like 92 billion rand. And only about 2% of that will go to black companies. That structure of economic reality reproduces itself with the ownership in the JSE, where black people
Yes.
only own about 3%.
It's less than 1, I've heard.
It's possible. So, white power, if you want to understand corruption, corruption is the creation of white power. You black people, you'll get into the economy under the direction of us white people. You go make the tender,
With permission.
and then the services will be provided by this white company, or you will get shares. I mean, take Ramaphosa. It's a good example. How he has about 12% shares in Lonmin, that company
Yes.
in Marikana, that mining company. He had only about 12% shares. But they used him to murder workers who were demanding a living wage.
And isn't it so funny how we attack him, who only has 12%,
That's the thing.
and the 78% we've left?
It's out of view. But that's how smart the White Project is. The White Project hides itself behind these black faces. Of course, they have rendered themselves servants
Yeah.
of white power. Even now, you will see, in the ANC, there's fight for political leadership battles.
Yes.
It's just a circulation of
Yeah.
the same sellouts
Yeah.
who will bow before white power and reproduce the same problem. So black consciousness basically it brings a stubbornness on the side of black people. If you really black consciousness, you are dogmatic about blackness. And that is why, even when these sellouts are being fought by white people, because eventually white people get rid of the sellouts.
Yes.
We must defend those sellouts at that point.
That's the thing.
I lost a big fat job. I used to work for the Foundation for Human Rights as an advisor. It is funded by the EU. I was earning more than these MPs. I lost that job because a white boy had insulted Mampele Rampele and saying that they are Steve Biko and Mampele Rampele doesn't know what she's talking about. And I attacked that white boy viciously, and then he, together with the human rights industry whites, got me out of the job. But Mampele Rampele is a sellout herself. But when the white boy was disrespecting her, it was my duty to stand up and defend her.
Yeah.
And so this is the unfortunate job of black consciousness, that once a black person comes under attack, that is why I moved Zuma. Zuma was firstly with the whites, then he went left and black nationalist again. At that point, white people started attacking him. And we said, hands off Zuma. Economic liberation now. Just like the Guptas. The Guptas were at war with our fundamental enemies. The Guptas wanted into the economy. White people would not allow them. So that made them our tactical ally, because they were fighting our fundamental enemy. So that is why, for me, Zuma, when he worked with the Guptas, it was a very smart thing to do. Some of the things they did was to provide a counter propaganda machine. They had a TV station.
Yes.
And that TV station allowed for us to speak a language which even the SABC will not allow.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is that this is a war. All those who are against the main enemy, we have to gravitate towards. And that is the only big reason why I was with Zuma. That's why I supported him. Thabo Mbeki, by the way, he attacked Zuma. He says Zuma is anti-ANC. He wrote a 30-page document saying that Zuma is anti-ANC because Zuma says black people must unite to retain the land. He says, Thabo Mbeki says, the language of black uniting is anti-ANC. And by the way, he's right.
Yeah, because they're non-racial.
He is right. Zuma was reintroducing the original ANC.
The Africanist one.
Exactly, the ANC, which in 1955 was whitened by the Freedom Charter. But prior ANC...
Give us that history, because there's a lot of young people. Give us that. What the changes in ANC, the Freedom Charter, give us that history.
So basically, remember the ANC was formed in 1912. It was in response to the Land Act. The white people in their little parliament had decided to enact the Land Act.
What
to
was
say
the Land
13% of the land will now reside in black people, and white people will have 87% of the land. That is the basic element of the Land Act. They were finally, remember, we had fought all the time, but by the end of that century, we are being defeated. I mean, the last war of resistance in 1906, Bambata, 6 years after we see the Land Act. So if we go back to the arrival of the white man, there was a first battle there. The Khoisan fought, were defeated. The Xhosa fought 100 years of war of resistance before they came to the Zulu. And I mean, again, one of the things that pains me a lot about black disunity is how they managed to colonize all of us. And when the Khoisan were fighting with these settlers, the Xhosas must have heard about this. And they never went back down to fight and assist the Khoisan. The Xhosas were involved in 100 years of war. You can't tell me the big Zulu nation, which is not far, even in terms of language, did not hear about our fight with
That's
the
the Lesotho.
the Lesotho, Mushweshwe, the others came. We should have all came down and united. But they defeated, even amongst the Xhosas, if you go see, they use one little group against the other, defeat the one group.
Isn't that what they're doing now?
This is exactly where we are. I mean, all the
Exactly
political
same thing that they're
parties,
doing now.
all the fights amongst ourselves, organized. The only consistent visionary force is the white force.
Yes.
It is united. It is clear about where it's going. That is why in 2024, they will again formally hold political power. We shall only have had power for this about what, it will be 33 years, and then we'll be out of power. Julius Malema has normalized the idea that we can work with white people against black people. When he gives DA political power, he normalizes the idea that black
The
and
DA
white...
is safe.
The DA is safe. We can work with the enemy. So this idea of working with the enemy, working with white racist parties of land thieves, has erased the responsibility and understanding that white people in this country are oppressors, are settlers, and are foreigners. They must pay reparation. They must return land. Now they have become our saviors. We work with them against the ANC. The ANC, which is their creation. The fact that the ANC is failing, it is precisely a white project. So white people have created the conditions where a black party,
They just give it a black face.
a black face,
Yes.
and now we are all angry against this thing, to the extent that we will say white people must come and help us. The creators of the failures of the ANC are white people. Even ideologically, in 1955, when they gave them the Freedom Charter, which says the land belongs to all who live in it, both black and white. How is that? In 1955, just in 1913, they have
Who
said
wrote the Freedom Charter that is now our constitution?
it is white people. Just like this constitution was written by the same white people. The ANC has surrendered thinking to white people, toi to black people. So we toi, white people think. And that is the white thought which has created the new democracy. And this is the white thought which is going to make sure that white people, even politically, they have been controlled economically. Now they will also politically. As we've seen already, the DA runs our major cities. As we speak right now, Joburg is under the DA, a white party, a racist, not just white, racist white party, which is for white interests.
I know.
Cape Town, they've always done Tshwane, and these are black majority cities.
And those are economic hubs.
Of course, I mean, if you take those, you have the country. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange is right here in Johannesburg. So what we see today, concocted by London, by this Robin Renwick guy, is going to manifest in 2024. And those of us who can see the danger coming are informed by black consciousness, because we're looking at black first. What is going to be the position of black people? And the position of black people in 2024 will simply be that we are now having white power again in control, and then we'll have another 100 years of trying to scramble to get into political power. Because unfortunately, the only thing that can solve our problem is exercising political power, state power. You are not going to solve our problem by any other means, but state power. That's what Sankara did. That's what we fought for. This is what
did Sankara do? Because, you know, we're not clever like you. You even told us we go to school because we're slow and demented. So please treat us like that.
Thomas Sankara, which we as Black First Land First follow, we concocted a thing called the Sankara Oath. And the Sankara Oath simply says, all those who are elected into parliament and senior managers in the state must be compelled by law to use public services. So if Julius Malema or
that
Ramaphosa
it should be like that.
sick, must go to a public hospital. Because they are responsible for the public amenities. Sankara took power in Burkina Faso. In 4 years, he turned that country around. He ended the poverty and lack of food. He withheld the desertification, planted 10 million trees to hold the desert away. He liberated women. He stopped this many wives situation, polygamy. I mean, people were very angry there. Men, of course. And then made sure that women are really brought up.
Empowered.
In power. Thomas Sankara said the women hold the other side of the sky. Without women, the whole thing will fall apart. So he's the one who recognized already in the early 80s the HIV and AIDS problem. And then he warned us against the World Bank. He said, we don't owe, we don't pay. And he was, of course, assassinated by the French, the Americans, to bring in this guy who is a thug.
And thank goodness now he's being held accountable.
Yeah, he's in exile, but the Burkina Faso government has issued, I think, a life sentence against him. But he's and a very close friend. Again, that's exactly the point.
Was his best friend.
Best friend.
His confidant.
White people use black people
against each other,
perpetuate the system of oppression. Even in Haiti, you know, Haiti is as black people, we have to look at it as our spiritual home. Because Haiti is the first black space to liberate itself. In 1804, Haiti, the Haitian slaves fought and defeated Napoleon. And they created the first black republic on earth. You know what? Haiti has been punished ever since. They firstly made it pay reparations, and they are creating wars in Haiti. They're creating hunger. Haiti is being punished for defeating Napoleon up to these days. But again, if you go look, black people have been used against each other. Aristide, one of the Haitian presidents, came in South Africa in exile under Mbeki. We went to see him, and he explained how his closest brother, his closest friend and comrade was used by the Americans to kick him out of power. So divide and rule is the closest friend and relative of black oppression and our defeat. And as I say, we could never have been colonized if we did not allow ourselves to be divided. Today we're divided by political party, by churches, you know. I mean, people are not talking to each other because of the different denominations they go to. But they say, all of us, we say we pray the same God. All of us say we want black people to be liberated. But
we don't do the action
Yeah.
of just being united.
and again, it goes back to the mind. Our minds are destroyed. And therefore our souls are not in good place. And we're harming each other. We're harming ourselves. And black consciousness helped to get out of that situation.
So far, I think, where are we in your life story? Because I'm still unpacking how.
Yeah. So then I left the farm. I went to
Yes.
Potchefstroom. I got my black consciousness through Basi Gugushe.
Yes.
And then I went to Wits. I studied at Wits.
Okay.
And then I was also active in the student movement. We even had a campaign against a black brother in America. They wanted to kill him, Mumi Abu Jamal. We had a campaign there to say we marched to the American embassy. And then thereafter, I worked in the land sector. I joined an NGO called the National Land Committee.
Is this where your passion for land is ignited?
No, I think it has always been there.
Okay.
But I've always tried to move away from it.
Yes, because
But it
we're
just
still going to
followed.
unpack, because I'm going to ask you to give us the history of the various land laws that have affected us and the wars and how we were displaced. Because the black child doesn't even realize that they're displaced.
Yeah, you see.
And that's it.
Yeah, Steve Biko says you can make a people to be what you want them to be. So we have a township consciousness. That's why we even have stickers that I love my kasi. We don't.
But what's wrong with loving your hood, guys? I'm one of those people, but I understand.
It's just like loving Mogodu and Mala. Who is the steak?
I know.
We love Tlhogwana le Malana, Akgogo le Maotwana Akgogo. Who has the drumstick? Why is our culture the culture of inyama yenhloko?
Right.
Who has the fillet? So
we just got used to the hood.
exactly, there's nothing wrong with eating mala le mogodu whilst you have the option of your steak. It cannot be that which is being rejected has come to define your culture. So it is so deeply ingrained, and of course, it tastes nice. So you love your marginalization, right?
Yeah, because even the hood, there's a vibe, guys. Man.
Exactly.
It's electric.
Yeah, we're creating, of course, the slave always created the possibility of life.
Yes.
So there are those moments where the slave creates life. We are creative people.
We are.
We are gods.
We are.
And that is why one of the first things they did when they arrived here was to kill our gods. And they gave us their god, their cuisine, their sartorial representation, and all that goes with that. But to be free, we have to be radically aware of our positionality. And that is the black consciousness burden. Once you get into black consciousness, you can't get out of it. You start seeing an abnormality in the fact that black people every morning go into those trains, packed like that, going out to the white suburbs.
So undignified.
Exactly. But it is normalized. You see, otherwise, if you don't have a black consciousness, that disrupts this normal setup.
Where you don't feel like you deserve better.
Exactly. And what people have given us a little bit, alcohol is the big thing.
Yeah.
Soccer also,
Celebrity.
Celebrity. Now today, the biggest drug is celebrity.
Yep.
That is our alcohol to keep us busy.
Influencers and what? Giving us titles to make us feel like we're the special black.
Exactly. Creating this fake progress where black people are put in front of products which they don't even own. We are just salespersons. We say politicians are sellouts, but most of black people are just salespersons. We sell for the white project. We are just middlemen and women for the material benefit of whiteness. And we like, of course, they give you some things, some little shiny things. They put your...
We love to be better than others. I'm not like the other blacks.
So, in a sense, we have to help our people to think through how we arrived here, and we can only do that by making them understand our history going backwards, including how the ANC was formed, how it was whitened, how this coming to this point was already seen by Steve Biko, who said that it is possible in South Africa to have a liberation where only 30% of black people will be taken care of, the majority will be excluded by white power. And that's exactly what has happened. So we have to help ourselves. And there's no helping ourselves outside of black unity.
Yeah.
And real black revolutionary unity. We can't unite on the basis of selling out, as it is going to happen in 2024. I mean, I'm terrified of this possibility, and it's a real possibility, where some of the black political parties will unite with the DA and give it power.
They already started.
It's already happening.
I mean, what's that DA light? It's Mashaba's one.
Yes.
Which is this
Action.
DA light.
Yes. I mean, it is created precisely for those black people who might not want to associate with the DA directly. They have this option of Mashaba. But ideologically, their leader is the DA. South Africa is a country run by white people already as we speak, because once they get your mind to accept a particular perspective, they are finished. Everything just falls into place. And as we say, the ANC is to blame for bringing us at this point. I mean, they have the political power. They could have used it to serve the interests of black people. Thabo Mbeki had two-thirds majority.
I don't even think they knew what to do with the two-thirds majority. Did they know?
Thabo Mbeki will not touch white interest. The ANC is a party with a white mind. And that is why it's so dangerous to give it power as well, because it simply reproduces whiteness. But now white people have been tired of this.
Pretending.
Yeah, pretending.
Yeah,
they want
because
it
we're
for
wasting their
themselves.
time.
Yeah.
Right?
These guys now, they must go. And so black people gave the ANC political power in 1994, two-thirds majority. The ANC could have changed the constitution without asking any other party to help it, to change those clauses which said we must buy back the land. Thabo Mbeki had two-thirds majority. But as he says, Zuma is wrong to say black people must unite to bring back the land. He says, who's our people? Thabo Mbeki doesn't know who's our people. He says, who's our people? Because in the ANC, it's both black and white. So Zuma is wrong to call for black unity, because that is not consistent with the ideological formation of the ANC.
Give us the history of the ANC, because we lost us. We keep going here, there, everywhere. Because you said it started in 1912. Give us, and when we got to the charter and the formation of the PAC, because then we're going to go into the Land Acts and the various...
Yeah. So basically the ANC was formed to counter the Land Act in 1913, because we knew it was coming.
Yes.
And then ANC is formed in the same time as the Land Act became a reality. It was meant to oppose the Land Act. That's why they sent those guys to London to go and beg the Queen that please don't let the Boere make this law which is going to take our land.
Because actually South Africa is a war between the English and the Boers.
Yes.
We got nothing to do with anything.
Yes. And so once the white people settled their contradictions, they said, look, guys, we can share, man. Why are we fighting? Boere and English. We can share. I mean, it's enough for all of us. The problem is the Daggies, let's just oppress them. And after they are only Boer, they agreed, no, fine. You'll take Cape Town, you'll take, and so on. That's fine. Now we rule. The Afrikaner had the majority numerically, and that's why they then run the political system. So the ANC was formed to oppose the Land Act, and then it was remember, the Native National Congress. That is the original name.
Yes.
Native, black.
Yes.
And
yes.
The ANC excluded white people until 1985. This is what people don't know. it will not have white members until 1985, since 1913 with its formation. It was a black party, but of course in 1955 with the Freedom Charter, it was white infiltration, white thought.
How did the whites infiltrate? Through which organizations, or what happened?
It was a Congress of Democrats and the Communist Party.
Yes.
So the Congress of the Democrats is white, the Communist Party was white, and the Communist Party provided the ideological leadership of whiteness into the ANC. That is why the ANC stopped being a black nationalist movement. Because if you started in 1912 and you said you are a blacks-only native party fighting for native land, and then they changed that name, they removed the native. So again, it was to accommodate whiteness. And so it becomes the African National Congress. And Thabo Mbeki's African, by the way, is both the settler and the native.
How do we counter what's happening in 2024?
Black unity. We all, those of us in the political space, have to speak to each other, talk amongst ourselves.
And then law, and then law. So
firstly, there are groupings which naturally should be in the same place.
Yeah.
The PAC, Azapo, ourselves, Temba Godi, those four groupings already should be on the same side.
Yes.
And it will be a disaster if we go to these 24 elections, divided movements.
It will be.
And then we must force all these other black parties to a black agenda. We must articulate a black agenda to say, for common survival, we need to pull together on these important questions of the land question, on the economy, and ending racism. I can't see any sane black people going against that proposition. But will they?
But they do, because here they think radical economic transformation is a swear word. So there's some conscientizing that needs to happen, or some brainwash, because 702 is working.
So that is the biggest victory of white people. It's not just that the ANC has been whitened, but the biggest victory since 1994 was to basically turn the black person against what their main interests are. I mean, even now, we praise people who are giving us jobs, not land, not ownership of the mines, not ownership of the banks. We praise people who are giving us a little jobs here and there. We are fighting people from outside South Africa for jobs to work for a white man. We want to go to become waiters. We are killing people because we want to become waiters and waitresses. We are not saying we own this country, we own this wealth, and not a single child should go bed hungry in a country God has given so much wealth. The largest deposit of gold known on earth are here. 80% of known platinum deposits are here. Not one person in this country should go to bed hungry. Not one person should be poor. There's enough wealth in this country, but it's all in the hands of a white minority which controls,
and a white-owned media that's not disseminating this information.
Of course,
because people don't know how minerally rich we are.
Of course, I mean, when the news come, we watch the news, we're killing each other, and then they say the economic news.
Yes.
Then we stand up to make coffee.
Yes.
This is the time to take a break.
It's affecting it.
Exactly. Then when we hear the
Dow
gold,
Jones and what's going up and down, and
I mean, even if we just focus on what the platinum is and what the gold is, but we don't, because it doesn't affect us. All we can do at best is to send some of our people to go work in the mine and get the gold out, get the little wage, but otherwise we are alienated.
Why
from
are we
our
so
wealth.
paralyzed? Because even like the petrol prices now, why is nobody fighting?
See, it's again in your mind, my sister. The Steve Biko teaches us that the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Until we sort the mind out, we're not going to move, man. I mean, it's like a donkey that has been put on a leash for all those years. Even if you remove the leash, it's still standing in the same place. It is on autopilot. The white man has eaten our brains. That is the source of our problems.
And that's why we are all drunk. Have you seen all the black men are drunk? All the black men are drunk. All the black women have got foreigners' hair on their heads. And I'm like, you guys think we're gonna get anywhere here?
But they give us three things to keep us away from thinking. They give us church. Every Sunday, sometimes 3 times a week, you are at church. You have no time
Praying
to think.
to the white man on the cross there.
Exactly. They give us alcohol and they give us soccer. These are the 3 main poisons to keep us away from thinking. Of course, to think is the most painful process. And to come to realize our position is the most traumatic realization. That is why the smarter kids go to Nyaope.
Yes.
The smarter kids take Nyaope.
Yeah.
They have to tune out.
Yeah.
They can't see this
Yeah.
reality. And they know, the smarter kid knows already now, in 30 years, where I'm going to be. Because they've seen this and they can
Yeah.
see the pattern.
There's no point.
There's no point. And
There's
so
no
and the
point.
kid, the smarter ones, who can see further,
Yep.
the ones that are supposed to
Yep.
save us, are the ones that get hooked
Yep.
on Nyaope to take a flight away from our black reality.
So, put Andile, as we wrap up, you said that 2024 is going back to Abelung. So, I want you to kind of unpack that for me. Are we going to be okay with that? Or what, just...
In fact, when John Hastings is announced president, townships are going to explode in jubilation and ululation. Our people are going to celebrate this formalization of their
Getting rid
oppression.
of ANC.
Getting rid of the ANC. The ANC's failures created by the same white system. So it's coming full circle. White power reproducing itself. They gave black people 30 years. They made sure that black people are unable to rule. Of course, black people who have the political power fail to use it. We must take some responsibility. And another responsibility we must take is that those of us who can see the coming calamity are unable to unite and to raise our voices sufficiently. Of course, the white media does not allow for our voices. We are projected as crazy people, as people must not be listened to. And some people, by the way they treat me, they don't even believe that I'm a VETS graduate. I've got a master's degree from VETS. I mean, of course, my spelling is bad, supposedly that. And I mean, as I say, I'm murdering the English language.
Yes.
It's a colonial language.
Yeah, we don't
I
have to
speak
know
it the
it's
way
wrong.
I want.
Yeah,
In fact,
very.
it's a good thing that
Yes.
I'm
Accept
murdering
it.
it that way. It's not us. So, black people are going to celebrate, my sister. We're going to celebrate the formal reintroduction of the apartheid system under white president who, if you look at how they run the Western Cape, the position of black people in Cape Town, black people there are third-class citizens.
And they've accepted. At 5 o'clock, they go back to the hood.
Exactly. We go back to the hood. We live in hockeys. A hockey is a
A chicken coop.
exactly. You hockey. I mean, it's you hockey. I mean, on farms, hockeys are for pigs, man. A vark playing a hawk.
Yeah.
Our people are put in that conditions in the Western Cape. Apartheid is very clear. The wealth is in white hands. Poverty is black. Good services are provided to white people. Black people are still trapped in the same poverty that was under apartheid. This will become a national reality. Even those black managers, now under the DA government, they'll probably remove them.
This is a bitter pill to swallow. Thank you so much for coming through. I'm not comfortable with what you're saying.
I'm the bringer of the bad news because just like John the Baptist, whose head was chopped off, I'm here to tell of the calamity which is coming. I'm here to sound a warning bell to black people. And just like when we colonized, we believe that our Sanusis were warning, nobody was listening. I am again here putting the word out. Black people, we are in a mortal danger. The answer to our problem, just like Steve Biko said, the problem in South Africa is white racism. The answer is black solidarity. I mean, he used the Hegelian method of dialectics, where he says the thesis is anti-white, anti-black racism, and the thesis is black solidarity. These two forces has to necessarily be in conflict to give us a new dispensation where race will not matter. Now, if we don't unite, the thesis will continue, which is the reality of white power, which will be actively supported by black people, will celebrate the coming down of the ANC. The ANC, which has surrendered power, in fact, as soon as it took it, it was never in power. It has never used this power to confront white capital. So we are going to celebrate our defeat once more. And this time, we are actively going to give white people political power. We are going to normalize white power. So unity simply means it's political unity. Because this problem we're facing, the calamity coming is a political one. Political power is going to white people. We have to stop that calamity from happening. And that means black people have to unite. All black political parties have to stand on the same side to stop the coming white reality. And we are a black majority. God gave us two things: mineral rights, wealth, and numbers in this country. We have the numbers. We are 90% of the population. We don't have to be sitting in this situation where we're excluded. We can use our numerical majority through political power. Of course. And we are very angry, by the way, and violent. That's why 20,000 black people kill each other a year in this country. We are people who are at war with ourselves, unfortunately, instead against the enemy.
Andile, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I know
sister.
you're a very busy man,
Thank
so
you,
we
my
appreciate
sister.
you coming to educate the black child. Guys, this is really Ndaba Zenu. In 2024, you're going to be celebrating DA, you heard. This is Unpopular Opinion. We will see you on social media. #up.
I want to have uncomfortable conversations. I want the room to be divided. I want people to be screaming and mad at each other. Then I want them to understand each other. I want to see things from a different point of view. This is Unpopular Opinion.